then after that, Billy Chappell it was, who said, you sing rather well, because I was laughing about in the wings, you know, singing. And I do sing quite charmingly. And you sing rather well. Why don't you come into this musical I'm doing? So I did, and that led, in a roundabout way, to review. And so I went into review with Maggie Smith. I'd not met her before. I'd only seen her. I'd seen her in Oxford 8 and thought she was marvellous. And, of course, I remember thinking at the time, review does produce a highly eccentric sort of performer, I mean, very stylized performer, and certainly Mags was. And the same applied to Fenella Fielding, who was the leading lady in the next review I did, which was called Pieces of Eight. And that had some incredible sketches in it. And I had one which has got weird reverberations going for it, because years after this show, I was in Covent Garden trying to get drinks at that crush bar, and somebody goosed me from behind, and I thought, oh, it's an old actor's trick. I'm not going to turn around and be horrified and say, how dare you? So I just ignore it. And then this goose came again, and I was forced to turn, and it was Judy Garland. I was absolutely staggered, and she said, how's your asp? And I said, I beg your pardon, because it sounded rude. She said, your asp? I've got your record. I play it and play it. The groove's now worn out. And then she started talking about this asp sketch, which was a sketch I did in this review. It was a little man who sat. Oh, yeah, this sort of thing. This sort of thing. It was a little box he had. And he sat and he said, I've got a viper. I've got a viper in this box. It's not an asp. Oh, no. Some people think it's an asp, but it's not. It's a viper. Oh, yeah, it's not an asp. Cleopatra had an asp, but I haven't. I mean, some people think that asps are easier to run, but they're not. Oh, no. And my viper's not easy to run either, my viper. Oh, my viper, ooh. It eats like a horse. And the man in the carriage, the railway carriage, said, like a horse, eh? Yes, I like a horse. I could do with a horse, but I couldn't get a horse into a little box like this. I know. It's not a horse box. Oh, no. A viper, yes, but a horse, no. Some people think I've got a fish, but I haven't got a fish in this box. I can get a fish in this box. Fish would need water, and cardboard is not waterproof. Oh, no. I haven't waterproofed cardboard yet. Or if they have, they haven't told me. And he went on and on and on about this asp and this I can't remember all of it now, because it was a very long piece, but it was very, very popular, and people remembered that, I think, for the reason of it's obsessive. It was obsessive writing. I mean, a man obsessed with one single object. And that pervaded a lot of the writing, because there was another sketch about a blimp who was appalled at the fact that in an English restaurant everything was foreign. And he couldn't stand all this foreign muck. And there was a marvellous opening, because the waiter said, good evening. I came in with this girl to have this dinner. And the waiter said, good evening, table à deux, what table for two? And my line was, what do you mean, adieu? Adieu? Then just arrived. What are you talking about, adieu? And that was the beginning of the sketch. And then he offered various French things and Spanish things, and he objected, the man, strongly to everything. And said, none of your Spanish muck. A lot of dirty old bishops trying to lay their filthy hands on Gibraltar. None of that for me, thank you. Would you like something? Hofratsch and Spargelgrenouille. What's that? It's flown from Bonn. Barry Bosch selling you their second-hand vegetables. One minute they're bombing you, the next minute they're selling you their second-hand vegetables. Irony, Bosch muck. And he got very angry about that, too. And eventually, the waiter couldn't satisfy him, because all the things were either French or Spanish or German. So he said, oh, let's have something safer, or a cup of tea. A cup of tea, yes. And the girl said, yes, or a cup of tea would be nice. So they settled for a cup of tea. And then, of course, the tagline was the waiter saying, Indian or China. And the man exploded with anger, and that was the blackout. And I did this sketch because we were asked by CND to take part in a charity-raising performance with Sheila Hancock. Not the girl I'd originally played with, Sheila. And we sat there doing this sketch, do you see? And of course, you know, not in your own theatre and somebody else's, you were relying entirely upon their technicians. And when it came to French or the Indian or China tea line, the blackout should have happened, you see. I was supposed to explode, and there was blackout. No blackout came. And we were sitting there, you see. And he said, Indian or China. I said, well, no line. I said, how dare you? What do you mean, Indian? Tea is English. It's grown on the Cotswold Hills. I've seen it growing there. My old grandmother, up there she was, picking it. You remember? I was desperate. I turned to Sheila Hancock. You remember my old grandmother on the hills? She said, oh, silly old cow. I was absolutely flabbergasted. I couldn't believe it. I said to her after, why'd you say that? She said, well, I was desperate. I didn't know what to do. You kept on about this grandmother. I thought, why you kept on about it? Because I was there, my grandmother, you remember my grand... And she got manic, too, and said this line, which was vaguely insulting. Well, not vaguely, it was very insulting. And we sat there in the wings, moaning about it all to the electricians. And then we saw this lady go on, sing. She was in a crinoline, sing. She had all the verses of the song written on her cuffs. She didn't know them properly. And she was singing this song, I Won't Be a Nun. Oh, I won't be a nun, I will live a life of pleasure. And the chorus is, I won't be a nun, no, I won't be a nun. And she was singing this song. And this audience at CND was a very religious one. There were lots of bishops and people. And these bishops were on the front row. And she was saying, come on, all join in. And these old bishops, I won't be a nun, I won't be a nun. Oh, terribly uncomfortable. So then after that, you'll see, I did do a whole show with Sheila. It was called One Over the Eight. And while I was doing that, I was running backwards and forwards while I was doing that because I was coming from, that was the Duke of York's, and I was coming from the Playhouse where I was doing Hancock's Half Hour. And Hancock's Half Hour was my first real radio series, you know, long series. And I was 4 years with Tony. And this particular venue, a Playhouse Theatre, which now they don't use it anymore, I think it's empty, there was a break in the pipeline. You know, couldn't get the recording line to Broadcasting House, so they said, would you fill in? So Sid James said, we'll do the interruption gags. Well, you come on and do these lines about, you know, I got a pound of meat, a Covent Garden, you got a pound of meat, a Covent Garden, I got a pound of meat, a Covent Garden, it was only a shilling for a pound of meat, what was it? Mutton? No, rotten. It was all that sort of thing. And I had to do one of these interruption gags. Bill Kerr did some, Hattie did some, and I had to run on and do the woofle gag. And I had to come on and say, I am sprinkling dust. I am sprinkling dust to kill the wild elephants. I am sprinkling woofle dust to kill the wild elephants. So I was doing this sprinkling woofle dust, and Hancock was to say, well, there are no wild elephants around here, and then I was to say, well, this isn't real woofle dust. That was the gag. And I know it sounds awful, but they used to go quite well. But he was supposed to say, what are you doing? You know, when I did all this, what are you doing? And I said, I am sprinkling woofle dust to kill the wild elephants. That's the whole point of the gag. What are you doing? I am sprinkling woofle dust. So he didn't do anything. And I was going like this. So I said, ask me why I am. We all know what you are. Got a bigger laugh than the original. Much bigger laugh. And then, do you see... No, it's true. It did happen. And then, do you see, I got... he didn't really like my kind of comedy. He said it's a bit cardboardy and stereotyped. A lot of people think that, too. I don't mind. And I said, well, that's all right, I'll go. And I joined Kenneth Horne. And I did... it was, first of all, Beyond Ken, and that was Eric Mediman and Barry Took, and then it became Round the Horn. And in the first one, there were some marvellous things, like there was always a little dramatisation where you heard somebody enact a bit, and then Kenneth Horne would have an announcement. And there was one marvellous bit where this man said, oh, will these lights never change? And Kenneth Horne saying, you've been listening to an excerpt from Forever Amber. There were charming little gags like that. And then in Round the Horn, the writers were different. They were Marty Feldman and Barry Took. And there were loads of very funny characters they created. And one of their couples was June and Sam, and Paddock and I used to play June and Sam, and we used to come in, and Kenneth Horne was always eminently reasonable with these two. They used to come in and say, "Oh, Miss Rowan, oh, bona fide, your jolly old Deke, oh, Miss Rowan," and we're always excessively familiar, and he was always charming, saying, "Well, thank you very much, lovely to see you, very nice. Now, I want you to decorate the place." "Oh, yes, interior decor, Miss Rowan. Oh, yes, we'll shove a couple of creepers up your trellis. Brighten it up, yes." And we always came with mad adventures which we related to him. And one was about yachting. And we said, "I went out the yacht, Mr. Rowan. Oh, Mr. Rowan, this great wave came. Oh, terrible great wave, Mr. Rowan. We were washed overboard. I was clinging to the deck, Mr. Rowan, for dear life." And his line was, "Did you manage to drag yourself up?" And we said, "No, we wore casuals."